Uncle Marco here, and this time it's not going to be a review, it's going to be more of a how-to. I'm going to play the authority figure card, even though I'm not, and see what we can do about building the Kraken. Now, Genesis tanks have been around for quite a while. In fact, I think they're a bit passé by now, and it's always been a bitch to build. I mean, let's call it a spade here. I mean, it's always been a bitch to build a Genesis tank. So I figured I'd share how I build mine. Hopefully it works for you. I don't know the exact science behind all of this, okay? So I just gotta give everyone a heads up and let you know that I'm just doing this the way I've always done Genesis tanks after I finally was able to piece together how to build the goddamn things. Genesis tanks have always been a challenge, although I find that fruity flavors and tobacco flavors taste amazing on Genesis tanks. Now, this is a brass Kraken. I've taken it apart. We have the quartz tube and all that shit taken out. So I'm just going to be building a single coil on it. Why? I don't see the point in duals. It consumes my liquid way too quick, and when I vape on Genesis devices, I typically vape them at low wattages, so it lasts pretty long as it is. So this is what it looks like all taken apart. You have the opposite wick holes right there, and the fill hole, which is the smaller one that you see on the lower portion based on the orientation that I'm holding the device at right now. Okay, so one quick tip to building Genesis tanks is that you want to get a guide that is smaller than your wick hole. You don't want to get one that's exactly the same. You want to have a bit of play right there. You should be able to wiggle it around freely because you don't want your mesh wick to make contact with the rims of the wick hole. Why? Because stainless steel on stainless steel with current passing through would cause shorts. Okay, that much I can tell you with a fair amount of certainty. Okay, so what we're going to be using is round Canthal wire. Straighten this out a bit. This is, I believe, 26 or 28 gauge, but in millimeters, it's 0.40 millimeters. Okay, so how do I wrap this shit? All right, I do it from the back this way. So you got a shorter lead on the back, the other one on the front, based on your orientation looking at it, and you wrap it. I'm going to be doing a micro coil of about 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, you're going to want to have the leads facing opposite one another when you're done. So it's going to look something like this when you're done. Okay, you got one lead going over, one lead going under. You're going to worry about straightening the leads or the coils out later on. What you're going to want to do is latch it onto the device like that. Now, you're going to want to elevate it a bit. So what I do is I take a flathead, which I usually do even for Phillips head screws, so that I don't wear the grooves out. I'm going to screw these out and wrap the top lead around the center post. You're going to want it to be very secured when you lock it down. So this is what it looks like. You're wrapping it around the center post right there. Alright, nice and tight. And you're going to want to wrap the other lead around the base screw like that. So it's going to look like that right there. Don't worry if your coils are a bit too close to the deck. We're going to iron that out later on. So that's pretty much what it looks like. It's going to latch it down nice and tight. And we're going to snip those off later in case we need to make some adjustments. But make sure that you have the leads pressed away from one another. You're going to want to tighten these down. Alright. And take it out. So it looks pretty sloppy right now. See, that's basically what it looks like. Let me see if I can get some focus here. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much what it looks like. I can't get the camera to focus that well. Okay, anyway, we are going to be pulsing this thing just to heat up the coils and get them nice and even. Remember, with microcoils, what you want to do is you want to get it as evened out as possible and as close to one another as possible. So we're going to have this sitting on top of a brass phenom to complete the whole vicious ant kick-ass look. So I'm going to be popping this onto my phenom right here. Okay, there you go. It's lighting up. So at least we did something right. What I'm going to do is, and you're going to want to lock the mud anytime you're working with your atomizer or your RTA or your RDA sitting on top of your device. You're going to want to push it up. So what I'm doing is, with the coil and the guide still installed, I'm pushing the coil upwards just so we have it lined up with the air hole. Never mind if it looks like you're throwing it a bit out of position. That's what the tweezers are for, and we're going to work on that in a bit. So after you push it upwards, you're going to want to tighten it back down on the screws. Okay, there you go. We have it nice and elevated. There you go. So we're going to fire this up and adjust it. Okay, so we don't have it glowing quite that evenly yet. That's what the magic tweezers are for. So we're going to fire it up while it's pulsed and nice and hot and primed up. We're going to pinch them together like so. Get them glowing from the center going outward. You're going to want your coil not to short out. Okay, yeah, so that's what we're trying to achieve right there. Let me show you. Okay, there you go. Okay, that should do. When you look at it that way, you're going to want to make sure that the coil is nice and hollow all the way through. We don't have it overlapping. You don't have the mesh touching anything. So I have 500 SS mesh. I do not oxidize my mesh. I'm not quite sure why some people do it. I think they do it to prevent shorts, but unless you're able to torch it evenly and perfectly, it's not gonna work properly. It's gonna lead to hot spots, and it's gonna hurt like hell if you get a hot spot or a burnt hit. Now, one more thing to keep in mind with stainless steel mesh is you want it dipped all the way down, but not so far in as to touch the base. Because if you screw up with that, you're going to end up with a burn mark like I did, because it's going to short out. So I have a little burn mark somewhere here, right there. Yeah, there, right there where the screwdriver is pointing. It's a result of stupidity on my part, which I have been able to rectify, thankfully. So we are going to give it a shot. When you fire it with a mesh wick installed, you're still going to want to get a nice even glow. You don't want one portion of it lighting up ahead of the rest. So this is pretty much what it looks like if you have, okay, if you got the coil built properly and you have the mesh installed properly. Okay, so things look like they're working just fine, so I'm going to trim the leads now. Use a nail clipper so that we don't loosen the connection. Some people twist it off manually. I just prefer to clip it that way. So let me just give it one last test fire and make sure that we have it lit up nice and even. Oh. Okay. Okay, it's pretty weird. Loosen up the connection a bit. Sorry, this video is one of those single take ones, so you guys are gonna have to bear with me. Alright, there you go. It's glowing nice and even now. Hey, what do you know? We got it in one go. Alright, let me just elevate this a bit. Now we're gonna wanna pop the quartz or the Pyrex tube down real nice and gentle because we don't want to break it. So typically I rotate it around the O-ring, make sure the tolerances are all just right. Snap it down, and there you have it. Let's just give it another go, make sure everything's nice and even. Nice and even. There. Okay, and we're going to fill it up with, I got some GQ Sin City watermelon apple stuff. I don't usually use the designated fill hole, the smaller one. I fill it straight through the other wick hole. Find it easier. That way my nozzle goes all the way through. Fill it up about halfway through and saturate the mesh wick a bit. Again, not torching the mesh is a personal preference, so I'm gonna give it a test fire, see how it vapes, and we should be all set. Now, when you're putting the top sleeve on, you're gonna want to twist it a bit to the right instead of force fitting it down, because I find that I don't worry as much about it breaking that way. And if you're going to be taking it out, do it the opposite way. Twist it a bit counterclockwise and yank it off, but don't apply too much force because you might break the quartz sleeve. So just give it a shot. Remember that when you vape a Genesis device, you want to have the wick down. So typically that means air hole down, but since we have dual air holes and you can open both of them up, you don't have to worry about that. Just make sure that you tilt it every now and then. Make sure that it's wicking efficiently and that your mesh wick is fully saturated, because you don't want to get any dry hits, because this thing hurts like shit. If you get a dry hit or if you get a hot spot on it, it's going to hurt like shit. So here goes. Amazing flavor. That's why I like mesh. I mean, a lot of people build this with cotton, and I mentioned this in my post. Cotton on a Genesis wicks like toilet paper would. It's absolute crap. Mesh or stainless rope, I haven't tried using it because I've heard that there are grades of it that aren't exactly food grade, magnets attached to it, so you don't want any of that shit. Mesh, straight up mesh is the way to go, at least in my opinion. That's what's worked for me for the longest time. That's what I've done with this device. So I'm going to give it a few more pulls because I'm enjoying the flavor on it, so here goes. Another tip when vaping on Genesis devices is, if you have a regulated device, a variable voltage or a variable wattage device, the most optimum wattage to vape it at is about 12 to 15 watts tops. I don't know why. The warmth is just right. The throat hit is amazing on these devices. I don't know why, but it feels like the nicotine level on my juices are amplified whenever I vape on a Genesis device. Maybe it's the wicking agent or the wicking medium, which is stainless mesh. I honestly wouldn't know. I told you I'm no scientist when it comes to this shit. I just wanted to share with you guys how I built it. So again, Genesis tanks aren't made for clouds, although I've seen some people who are able to get a huge, thick-ass, dense cloud out of Genesis devices. I use it more for convenience. Honestly, I don't take the Genesis tank out of the house all that often because you can't lie it down, you can't have it turned upside down, you have to keep it standing upright, otherwise it's going to leak. It's going to leak out of the air hole, or it's going to pool in the top chamber. When you take it off, you're going to waste, what, 2.53 mil of juice, so you don't want to do that. So basically that's it. I'm going to be doing a video on the Kraken a bit late, but I'll probably be putting out my 2 cents on it just for kicks. I just wanted to share with all of you guys how I build mine. So there you go. Most of the video was consumed by talking. Thankfully, I was able to get it in record time for me. A lot of people I know can build gens a lot faster than I can, but there it goes. That's the Kraken for you, and how to build it. So, Vicious Ant, you all have an awesome day, and vape hard, fellas. Cheers.